Park went to bed alone on a cold Tuesday night in Seoul. His small apartment was quiet. The only sounds were the hum of his old refrigerator and the distant noise of traffic below. He had worked 14 hours at his software company. His eyes hurt. His back ached. He did not even change his clothes before falling onto his bed. Sleep came fast and heavy, like a dark blanket covering his mind. When he opened his eyes, everything was wrong. The ceiling above him was not his ceiling. It was made of something that looked like purple glass, and it stretched high above him like the inside of a cathedral. Strange lights floated in the air, soft and golden, moving slowly like lazy fireflies. The bed beneath him was too soft, too large, covered in fabrics that felt like water against his skin. Sat up fast. His heart was beating hard. He looked around and saw that he was in a massive room. The walls were made of white crystal that glowed from within. There were no windows, but the room was bright. Strange symbols were carved into the floor, forming circles and patterns he did not understand. He was not alone. Dozens of figures stood around the room. They were tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished silver. Their eyes were large and completely black, like pools of ink. They wore flowing robes of deep blue and gold. When sat up, every single one of them bowed their heads toward him. His breath caught in his throat. He scrambled backward on the bed until his back hit something solid. He turned and found himself face to face with a woman. No, not a woman, something else. She was taller than any human woman he had ever seen. Her skin was pale silver, smooth and perfect like marble. She had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on her face, each one a deep violet color that seemed to glow with inner light. Her hair, if it could be called hair, was made of thin strands that floated around her head like she was underwater. She wore a crown of black metal that twisted like thorns above her brow. She was beautiful, she was terrifying. "You are awake," she said. Her voice was strange, like many voices speaking at once in perfect harmony. "I am pleased." His mouth opened, but no words came out. He tried again. "Where am I? Who are you? What is happening?" The woman tilted her head slightly. Her 4 eyes studied him with an expression he could not read. "I am High Queen of the Empire, and you, Park of Earth, are my husband." The words hit him like cold water. Husband. The word echoed in his mind, refusing to make sense. He laughed, a short and nervous sound. "This is a dream. I am dreaming. I worked too hard. I need to wake up now." He pinched his arm, hard. The pain was real. Watched him with those strange eyes. "This is not a dream. You have been brought here through the soul binding, a sacred union recognized by the cosmos itself. Your soul and mine have been connected across the void of space. The universe has chosen you as my mate." Shook his head. No, that is impossible. I was asleep in my apartment in Seoul. I do not know you. I have never seen you before. How can I be your husband?" "The soul binding does not require previous meeting," explained. Her voice was patient, like she was talking to a child. "It is a rare phenomenon that occurs perhaps once in 10,000 years. When the binding happens, 2 souls are joined forever. You were sleeping when it occurred. Your body was brought here instantly, across 40,000 light years of space." 40,000 light years. The number was too big, too impossible, felt dizzy. He gripped the edge of the bed to steady himself. "Send me back," he said. His voice was shaking. "I do not want this. I did not agree to this. Send me back to Earth right now." For the first time, something like emotion crossed his face. It was brief, gone almost before he saw it. Sadness, perhaps, or regret. "I cannot," she said quietly. "The soul binding cannot be broken. If it is severed, both of us will die. Our souls are now connected. What happens to one happens to the other. This is permanent, Park. This is forever." Stared at her. His mind was racing, trying to find a way out, trying to find something that made sense. But nothing made sense. He was in an alien palace, married to an alien queen, trapped 40,000 light years from home. "Why me?" he asked. The question came out as almost a whisper. Out of all the beings in the universe, why did this binding choose me? Was silent for a moment. I do not know. The soul binding follows rules we do not understand. Perhaps there is something in you that matches something in me. Perhaps it is random chance. Perhaps there is a purpose we cannot yet see. She paused. I did not choose this either, Park, but it has happened. We must find a way to live with it. One of the silver-skinned attendants stepped forward and bowed low. My queen, the royal council requests your presence. They wish to see the new consort. Nodded slightly, she looked back at, and for a moment her expression softened just a little. You will be safe here. No one will harm you. You are now a member of the royal family with all the protections that brings. She stood and realized just how tall she was. She towered over him by at least a foot. Rest, eat. I will return when I can. She turned and walked away, her robes flowing behind her like water. The attendants followed, leaving alone in the massive room. He sat there for a long time, staring at the strange ceiling, trying to understand what had happened to his life. Yesterday, he was a normal software engineer worried about deadlines and rent. Today, he was the husband of an alien queen in a palace made of crystal and light. He thought about his mother back in. He thought about his small apartment, his coffee mug, his comfortable routine. All of it was gone now. All of it was 40,000 light years away. Took a deep breath, then another. His hands were still shaking, but his mind was starting to clear. He was scared. He was confused, but he was also still alive, and as long as he was alive, he could figure this out. He stood up from the bed and looked around the room. There had to be answers somewhere. There had to be a way to understand this strange new world he had been thrown into. Park was alone, afraid, and very far from home, but he was not going to give up. He was human, and humans, as his grandmother used to say, were too stubborn to know when to quit. He walked toward the door, ready to face whatever came next. 3 weeks passed in the Crystal Palace and still felt like a stranger in a strange dream. Every morning he woke up expecting to see his old ceiling with the water stains shaped like a duck. Instead, he saw purple glass and floating lights. Every morning the truth hit him again. He was not going home. The empire, he learned, was vast beyond imagination. 200 star systems, thousands of planets, trillions of beings. The empire had existed for 12,000 years, spreading across the galaxy like a slow and steady tide. They themselves were ancient and proud. They had built wonders that could not even understand. Ships that moved faster than light. Cities that floated in the clouds. Machines that could read minds and heal any wound. And yet, despite all their power, they looked at like he was a strange animal brought in from the wild. His guide was an official named. He was older than the others, with lines on his silver face and eyes that were more gray than black. He spoke to with patience, explaining the customs and rules of the court, but even could not hide his curiosity. He often studied when he thought the human was not looking. Your people, said one day, have no record in our archives. Earth is an uncontacted world. We did not even know your species existed until the soul binding occurred. Was eating something that looked like blue rice but tasted like honey. The food here was strange but mostly good. What does that mean, uncontacted? It means your world has not yet developed interstellar travel. You have not left your home system. By law, such worlds are left alone until they are ready. Paused. You are the first human any has ever met. Lucky me, said dryly. Tilted his head. You use humor to deflect discomfort. I have noticed this pattern in you. Is this common among humans? Very common. The first time attended a royal gathering, he understood just how much trouble he was in. The Golden Court was a massive hall with walls that shimmered like liquid metal. Hundreds of nobles filled the space, their robes bright with colors that had no names for. They turned to look at him when he entered, and their stares felt like needles on his skin. He walked beside who moved through the crowd like a ship cutting through water. She did not look at him, did not speak to him, but he could feel something through the soul binding, a thin thread of tension, of worry. She was not as calm as she appeared. A large male stepped into their path. He was broader than the others, with shoulders like a soldier and eyes that burned with cold fire. He wore a uniform covered in medals and symbols that did not recognize. "So this is the creature," the male said loudly. His voice carried across the hall. Everyone stopped talking. Everyone watched. "This is what the universe chose for our queen, a primitive from a forgotten rock." Four eyes narrowed. "General, you forget your place." "I forget nothing, my queen," lip curled with disgust. "I remember when this throne was held by those worthy of it. Now it is stained by this thing." He looked at like he was looking at an insect. "Tell me, creature, what skills do you have? What value do you bring to the empire? Can you command fleets? Can you negotiate treaties? Can you do anything at all?" The hall was silent. Every eye was on. He could feel the judgment, the dismissal, the contempt. These beings had traveled the stars for thousands of years. They had built wonders and conquered worlds. And he was just a software engineer from Seoul who could barely cook rice properly. But something in refused to bend. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was the memory of his grandfather, who had survived war and poverty and never bowed to anyone who did not deserve it. Looked up at the general. His heart was beating fast, but his voice came out steady. "How many wars have you won, General?" Blinked. The question clearly surprised him. "What?" "You are a military commander. You wear medals. You speak of worth and value. So I am asking, how many wars have you won?" His expression darkened. "They have not engaged in major warfare for 3,000 years. We are a civilized people. We do not." 3,000 years of peace, interrupted. "That is impressive. My people have not known 3,000 years of anything. We have been fighting since we learned to pick up rocks and throw them." He took a step forward. "We fought each other. We fought nature. We fought diseases that killed millions. We fought animals bigger and stronger than us. We fought the cold and the heat and the hunger." Another step. "And we are still here. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived weapons that could burn cities to ash in seconds. We are still here." The hall was completely silent now. Could feel surprise through the bond, a spark of something that might have been interest. "You call us primitive," continued. "Maybe we are. We have not traveled the stars. We have not built empires, but we learned something in all our years of fighting and dying." He met eyes directly. "We learned how to survive, no matter what. No matter the cost. Humans do not give up. Humans do not quit. And humans do not bow to bullies." For a long moment, no one spoke. His face was twisted with anger, but something else was there too. Something that might have been uncertainty. "Bold words from a small creature," finally said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. "Bold words are all I have right now," replied. "But words can change things. My people know that too." Turned away without another word and disappeared into the crowd. The gathering slowly returned to normal, voices rising again in conversation. But noticed that many of them were looking at him differently now. Not with respect exactly, but with curiosity, with interest. Later that night, came to his chambers. It was the first time she had sought him out since that first morning. "You surprised me today," she said. Her voice was as calm as always, but through the bond felt something warmer. "I surprised myself," he admitted. "The things you said about your people, the fighting, the survival, is it true?" Thought about history books, about wars and plagues and disasters, about his grandfather's stories of a country torn apart and rebuilt. Every word. Was quiet for a moment. They have bred themselves into specialized castes over thousands of years. Workers, thinkers, leaders, soldiers. Each type does only what it was designed to do. We thought this was efficiency. She looked at him with those strange violet eyes. "Your people are not specialized." "No, we are generalists. We adapt, we learn, we change." He shrugged. "It is messy and chaotic, but it works." Perhaps, said slowly, there is more to learn from primitives than I thought. She left without another word, but felt something new through their bond. A door had opened, just a crack. For the first time since he arrived, he felt like maybe, just maybe, he had a chance. He was still a stranger in a strange world, but strangers could become something more. The poison came on a quiet evening, hidden in a dish that looked like purple fruit but tasted like sweet flowers. Ate 3 pieces before his throat began to close. His skin turned hot. His vision blurred. He fell from his chair and hit the floor hard, his body shaking as fire spread through his veins. Servants screamed. Guards rushed in. Someone lifted him, and then everything became a blur of lights and sounds and pain. He remembered floating in something warm. He remembered voices speaking in languages he did not understand. He remembered face above him, her 4 eyes wide with an emotion he had never seen in her before. Fear. When he finally woke, he was in a medical chamber filled with machines that hummed and glowed. Was there, sitting in a chair beside his bed, looking tired and old. You survived, said. His voice was heavy with wonder. You should not have survived. The poison was designed to kill any within seconds. Your physician said your body should have shut down completely. His throat was sore, his whole body ached. What happened? Your immune system fought back, shook his head slowly. Our doctors have never seen anything like it. Your body recognized the poison as a threat and attacked it. The battle nearly destroyed you, but you won. He leaned forward. Park, do you understand what this means? Your species evolved defenses against threats we cannot even imagine. Closed his eyes. His grandmother's voice came to him from memory. She used to tell him stories about the old days, about diseases that swept through villages, about people who survived when they should have died. We come from a hard world, he said quietly. A death world, replied. That is what our scientists are calling Earth now, a planet where everything is trying to kill you, predators, diseases, the weather itself, and yet your people thrived. He paused. I am beginning to understand why the soul binding chose you. The door opened and entered. She was alone, without guards or attendants. Her face was as calm as stone, but through the bond felt her emotions crashing like waves. Relief, anger, something else he could not name. Bowed and left without a word. Stood at the foot of his bed for a long moment, just looking at him. Then she did something that shocked more than the poison had. She sat down on the edge of his bed, close enough that he could have touched her. I thought you were going to die, she said. Her voice was different now, smaller, more human. I almost did. I felt it through the bond, your pain, your fear. She looked down at her hands. I have felt many things through our connection, but nothing like that, nothing so intense. Pushed himself up slowly, ignoring the protest of his aching muscles. Who did this? Who poisoned me? We do not know yet. The investigation continues. Her hands tightened in her lap. But I have enemies, Park, many enemies. Those who think I am unfit to rule, those who see our bond as weakness. She finally looked at him. I should have warned you. I should have protected you better. You could not have known. I am the queen. I am supposed to know everything. There was bitterness in her voice now. That is what they taught me since I was a child. A queen knows, a queen controls, a queen never shows weakness. She paused. My mother believed that too. She believed it until the day her own council murdered her. The words hung in the air between them. Felt the weight of them through the bond, years and years of pain compressed into a single confession. I am sorry, he said. Do not be sorry. I did not tell you for sympathy. She straightened her back, and for a moment she was the cold queen again. I told you so you would understand. Trust is dangerous in this place. Everyone wants something. Everyone has plans within plans. Then why are you here, alone? Why tell me this? Was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I felt you dying, and I realized that I did not want you to die. Somewhere in these weeks, without meaning to, I began to care whether you lived or not. She looked away. That is not supposed to happen. The soul binding is political. It is cosmic. It is not supposed to involve feelings. Reached out and took her hand. Her silver skin was cool and smooth. She flinched at his touch but did not pull away. Where I come from, he said, we have a saying. We say that you do not choose your family, but you can choose what family means to you. He squeezed her hand gently. I did not choose this. Neither did you, but we are connected now, and I am not going to run away from that. Her 4 eyes met his 2. You are strange, Park. So I have been told. You almost died today. By all rights you should be angry, frightened, demanding to be kept safe. I am all of those things, he admitted. But being angry and frightened does not mean I abandon my people. He paused. In my culture, when you marry someone, you promise to stand beside them, in good times and bad, in sickness and health. That promise does not have an exception for alien poison. Something changed in his face. The coldness cracked just a little. Through the bond, felt something warm bloom in her chest. You are a fool, she said, but there was no cruelty in it. Maybe, but I am your fool now. For the first time since he had known her, smiled. It was small and uncertain, like a flower that had never seen the sun, but it was real. Rest, she said, standing up, but she did not release his hand right away. Recover your strength. The ones who did this will be found, and they will learn that attacking my consort has consequences. She left and lay back on his bed. His body was still weak, his throat still hurt, but something inside him felt stronger than before. He thought about the bond between them. When he first learned of it, he saw it as a prison, a chain that bound him to a stranger against his will, but now he was beginning to see it differently. The bond was not just about control or fate, it was a bridge. Had been alone her whole life, surrounded by servants and soldiers, but never by anyone she could trust, never by anyone who saw her as more than a symbol or a tool. Understood loneliness. He had felt it in his small apartment, eating dinner alone, watching the city lights through his window. He had felt it in his success, climbing the corporate ladder but never finding someone to share it with. Maybe that was why the universe chose them. 2 lonely souls, separated by galaxies, connected by something they did not understand. He was still far from home, he was still in danger, but he was no longer alone. And neither was she. The war came without warning. One moment the Empire was at peace. The next, 3 border systems were burning. Learned about the swarm from the emergency meetings that allowed him to attend. They were not like anything had ever imagined. They were a hive species, billions of creatures sharing a single collective mind. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They consumed. World after world fell to their endless hunger, their populations devoured or transformed into new drones. The Empire had held them back for centuries through superior technology and defensive positions. But now something had changed. The swarm was adapting, learning, finding new ways through the Empire's defenses. General stood before the War Council, his face grim. Holographic displays showed the 3 lost systems, highlighted in red against the blue of space. We lost 40 ships at station, reported. They attacked in a pattern we have never seen before. They sacrificed thousands of fighters to create an opening, then sent their largest ships through the gap. He paused. Our fleet followed standard defensive formations. We were overwhelmed. The council members murmured among themselves. Through the bond, felt growing frustration. What do you recommend, General? She asked. More ships, more soldiers. We must reinforce the remaining border stations with everything we have. And if they adapt again, if they find new ways through our defenses. Hesitated. Then we reinforce again. We hold the line. We have always held the line. Had been quiet throughout the meeting. He was supposed to be quiet. He was the consort, not a military advisor. But something in the battle recordings bothered him. He had watched them 5 times now, and each time he noticed the same thing. They are not fighting to win, he said. The room went silent, every turned to look at him. Excuse me, his voice was cold. Stepped forward. Your fleet, they are not fighting to win, they are fighting to be correct. I do not understand your meaning. Pointed at the holographic display. This formation here, it is perfect, beautiful, even, every ship in the right position, every weapon firing at optimal angles. He shook his head. But war is not about being perfect. War is about winning, and they understand that better than you do. His face turned dark with anger. You dare lecture me on warfare, you who come from a species that has never left its own world. My species has been fighting wars for 10,000 years, replied. We have learned things about violence that I hope you never need to learn, but right now you need some of that knowledge, because you are losing. The room erupted in angry voices. Council members shouted objections, looked ready to attack physically. Silence, his voice cut through the noise like a blade, let him speak. Took a breath. The sacrifice thousands of fighters to create that opening. In your culture, that would be unthinkable, wasteful, wrong. He looked around the room. But they won. They destroyed your fleet and took 3 systems. Sacrifice worked. You are suggesting we throw away lives? A council member asked in horror. I am suggesting that they do not follow your rules. They do not care about honor or proper formations or acceptable losses. They care about victory. Walked toward the display. My people learned this lesson many times throughout history. We had to learn it again and again because we kept forgetting. But the lesson never changes. In war, the side that is willing to adapt is the side that survives. And what would you have us do differently? Asked. His voice was mocking, but there was something else underneath. Curiosity, perhaps, or desperation. Studied the display. They expect you to fight in formations, to defend fixed positions, to react predictably. He traced a line through the hologram. Stop doing what they expect. Hit them where they do not anticipate. Attack their supply lines instead of their main fleet. Use small, fast ships to strike and disappear. Make them afraid to extend themselves. That is cowardice, spat. Hiding and running is not how warriors fight. Those tactics have names where I come from. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, psychological operations. Met's eyes. My ancestors used these tactics to defeat enemies 10 times their size. They are not cowardly. They are smart. And what of honor? What of the proper way to conduct warfare? Honor is for those who can afford it, said quietly. When you are losing, when your people are dying, when everything you love is being consumed by monsters, you do not worry about honor. You worry about survival. He paused. I would rather be a living coward than a dead hero. And more importantly, I would rather my people live in shame than die with honor. The room was silent again, but this time the silence was different. Some of the council members were looking at him with new eyes. Stood, General, you will select a small strike force, 12 ships, fast and maneuverable. You will give them to Commander and follow Park's recommendations. My queen, this is an order. Her voice left no room for argument. We have tried your way for 3 centuries. We have held the line, as you say, but holding is not winning. Perhaps it is time to try something different. 2 weeks later, Commander's strike force hit a hive ship behind enemy lines. They did not engage in formation. They did not fight fair. They attacked from 3 directions at once, disabled the ship's engines, and then retreated before the reinforcements arrived. The hive ship drifted helplessly for days before a second strike, destroyed it completely. It was the first major victory against the in 50 years. When the news reached the palace, came to his chambers, the general stood in the doorway for a long moment, his face unreadable. You were right, he finally said. The words seemed to cause him physical pain. Your tactics worked. Nodded. This is only the beginning. They will adapt. They always do. So we must keep adapting too, keep them off balance, keep them guessing. You speak of war like it is a game. It is a game. A terrible, bloody game where the losers die and the winners get to keep living. Stood and faced the general. But games can be won, and I intend to help you win this one. Studied him for a long moment. You are not what I expected, human. I get that a lot. The general turned to leave, then paused. The things you know about warfare, the tactics, the strategies, how did your people learn them? Thought about history, about the endless wars that had shaped humanity, about the blood and fire and death that had forged his species into what they were. We learned by dying, he said simply, again and again until we figured out how to survive. Nodded slowly, then he left without another word. That night stood at a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, they were planning their next attack. Somewhere out there, soldiers were using human tactics to fight back. He had never wanted to be a war advisor. He had never wanted any of this, but fate did not care about what people wanted. He was human, and humans did what they had to do. 6 months had passed since arrived in the Empire. 6 months of learning, adapting, and slowly finding his place in a world he never expected to know. The war continued, but the tide was turning. Human tactics were spreading through the military, and they were losing ground for the first time in centuries. But more than the war had changed, and so had. It started with small things. She began visiting his chambers in the evening just to talk. She asked about Earth, about his family, about the strange customs of humanity. He told her about Korean food and music, and the way the cherry blossoms looked in spring. She listened with those 4 violet eyes, and through the bond, he felt her genuine curiosity. Then the talks became longer. She started sharing things about herself, about her childhood in the palace, trained from birth to show no emotion, about her mother, who taught her to trust no one, about the loneliness of being a queen surrounded by people who wanted things from her but never cared about her. One night, as they sat together watching the stars through a massive window, asked the question he had been afraid to ask. Why did you allow yourself to get close to me? Was quiet for a moment. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the starlight. I did not allow it, it simply happened. She turned to look at him. You are different from anyone I have ever known. You say what you think. You do not bow and scrape. You challenged General in front of the entire court on your first day. That was probably stupid. It was definitely stupid, but it was also brave. She paused. I have known many brave people, soldiers who would die for me, servants who would do anything I asked, but their bravery came from duty or fear or ambition. Yours comes from somewhere else, from inside you. Where I come from, we call it stubbornness. Call it what you will, it is something I have never seen before. She reached out and touched his hand, her cool fingers intertwined with his. The soul binding connected us, but this, what I feel now, is not from the bond. This is something I chose. Felt his heart beating faster. Through the bond, he felt her emotions matching his. Hope, fear, something deeper that neither of them wanted to name yet. I have stopped wanting to go home, he said quietly. I thought about it every day at first, counting the light years, imagining my apartment, my old life. He shook his head. But now when I think about home, I think about this place, this room, you. Leaned closer. Her 4 eyes were soft in the starlight. Humans are strange creatures. So I have been told. She kissed him then. It was gentle and uncertain, the kiss of someone who had never allowed herself to be vulnerable. Kissed her back, and through the bond, he felt something unlock between them. A door that had been closed for too long finally opening. But happiness in the court was never allowed to last. 3 days later, guards came to his chambers in the middle of the night. They were not his usual guards. Their faces were hard and cold, and they did not bow when they entered. Park Royal Consort, the leader said, you are under arrest for treason against the Empire. His blood turned to ice. What? That is impossible. I have done nothing wrong. Evidence has been presented to the High Council. You have been communicating with the swarm, selling military secrets, betraying your position. The guard stepped forward. You will come with us now. This is a mistake. The Queen, she will tell you. The Queen has been informed. The evidence is clear. She cannot protect you. They took him through the palace, down corridors he had never seen before, into the cold depths beneath the crystal towers. They put him in a cell made of black metal, with no windows and no light except for a dim glow from the walls. Sat in the darkness and tried to understand what had happened. Someone had framed him. Someone had created false evidence, perfect enough to convince the council. But who and why? Through the bond he felt some emotions: anger, fear, desperation. She was fighting for him, he knew, but she was also scared. Scared in a way he had never felt from her before. The trial came quickly. Stood before the High Council in chains, surrounded by guards, with the evidence displayed for all to see. Communications that showed him contacting the military plans that had been leaked. A hidden device found in his chambers that could send messages across enemy lines. All of it was false. All of it was perfect. The chief prosecutor was a council member named. He was tall and thin, with eyes that gleamed with barely hidden satisfaction. He presented the evidence with careful precision, each piece building a picture of betrayal that could not refute. The primitive has shown his true nature, declared. He came to us claiming ignorance, playing the fool, but all along he was working for our enemies, using his position to destroy us from within. Stood tall, his chains were heavy, but he refused to let them pull him down. I am innocent. This evidence is fabricated. I have never contacted I have done nothing but try to help this empire. Then explain how these communications were sent from your quarters. Explain how these plans, known only to you and the military command, reached enemy hands. I cannot explain what I did not do. Smiled coldly. The guilty always claim innocence. Rose from her throne. Through the bond felt her rage barely contained. Counselor, I have known Park for 6 months. I have felt his soul through the binding. He is not capable of this betrayal. With respect, my queen, the soul binding shows emotions, not actions. He could feel love for you and still betray you. Bode, but there was no respect in it. Your judgment is clouded by your feelings. The evidence is clear. The law is clear. The law also grants me the right to pardon. And if you do, you will prove to the empire that you put your personal desires above justice, above the safety of your people. Turn to face the council. Already, there are whispers that the queen is unfit, that she has been corrupted by this primitive. A pardon would confirm every suspicion. The room was silent, could see the calculation in his eyes. If she saved him, she might lose everything. The council could move against her. Civil war could tear the empire apart. He said quietly, "Do not destroy yourself for me." She looked at him, and for a moment her mask cracked. He saw the girl underneath, the lonely child who had learned to hide her heart. He felt her through the bond, felt her love and her despair. "The trial will continue tomorrow," she said finally. Her voice was steady, but felt the tears she refused to shed. "The council will review the evidence and render judgment." They took back to his cell. He sat in the darkness and waited. Tomorrow they would decide his fate. Tomorrow he would probably die. But even now, even facing death, his only thought was of her. He hoped she would survive this. He hoped she would find happiness somehow. He hoped she knew that he had loved her, even if he had never said the words. In the darkness of his cell, Park closed his eyes and waited for the end. The cell door opened in the dead of night. Looked up, expecting guards, expecting death. Instead, he saw standing in the doorway, his silver face pale with fear. Quickly whispered, "We do not have much time." "What are you doing?" "Saving your life, you foolish human. Now move." They slipped through the dark corridors beneath the palace. Knew the passages well, guiding through paths that seemed forgotten by time. The walls were damp and cold, and strange sounds echoed from the depths. "Why are you helping me?" asked as they moved. "Because I know you are innocent." His voice was grim. "I have watched you for 6 months. I have studied you. I have seen your confusion, your struggles, your genuine desire to help. You are many things, Park, but you are not a traitor." The council does not agree. The council sees what wants them to see. He has been planning this for a long time. Stopped at a junction and listened carefully before continuing. "I did not want to believe it at first. Has served the Empire for 2 centuries, but I began noticing things. Secret meetings, strange messages, and then I found this." He handed a small device, no bigger than a coin. It glowed faintly with alien symbols. "What is it?" "A communication relay. I found it hidden in private chambers. The frequency matches transmission patterns." Eyes were hard. "Is the traitor. He has been working with the enemy for years, feeding them information, weakening our defenses. And now he is using you to cover his tracks." Stared at the device, the evidence he needed, the truth that could save his life. "We need to get this too." "That is the plan. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe. Has guards looking for you. He knows that if you escape, you might expose him." They emerged from the passages into a small courtyard hidden behind the palace. The sky above was filled with stars, and for a moment just breathed. Fresh air, open space. He had not realized how much the cell had crushed him until he was free of it. But their freedom lasted only seconds. Alarms began to scream. Lights flooded the courtyard. Guards poured in from every direction, weapons raised and ready. And there, standing in the center of them all, was. "Did you really think you could escape?" His voice was smooth and cold. "Did you really think I would not anticipate this?" Stepped forward, holding up the communication device. "It is over. I know what you are. I have proof." Laughed. It was an ugly sound filled with contempt. "Proof? From a failed counselor and a condemned primitive. Who will believe you?" He gestured to the guards. "Kill them both. Say they were trying to escape. Say the human killed in his desperation." The guards raised their weapons. And then the sky caught fire. Explosions ripped through the night. Ships screamed overhead, raining destruction on the palace grounds. The had arrived. Chaos erupted. Guards scattered as buildings collapsed. The ground shook with the impact of bombs. Through the smoke and fire saw massive shapes descending from the clouds. Dropships, dozens of them, landing all across the capital. Had betrayed everything. Not just the queen. He had given them the location of the palace, the defensive positions, everything they needed for a direct strike at the heart of the empire. "You monster," breathed. His face had changed. The smooth politician was gone, replaced by something desperate and twisted. "They promised me power. They promised me control. When the empire falls, I will rule what remains as their servant king." "You will rule ashes," said. "Better ashes than nothing." Drew a weapon from his robes, a thin blade that glowed with energy. He lunged at but moved faster. He threw himself between them, felt the blade slice across his chest, felt the burn of it cutting through his flesh. He fell, blood spreading across his clothes. But he had bought a moment, just a moment, and the counselor did not waste it. Struck with a strength born of desperation, knocking the blade away, sending the traitor crashing to the ground. Lay on the cold stone, watching the stars spin above him. The pain was everywhere now, a red tide pulling him under. Through the bond he felt terror, felt her racing through the palace, searching for him. "Hold on," was saying, "hold on, please." Wanted to laugh, hold on, as if willpower could stop blood from flowing, as if stubbornness could defeat death. But then humans were stubborn. He grabbed his arm. "Get the device to expose, that is what matters." "You matter too, you fool." "Then tell her," coughed, tasting copper. "Tell her I loved her, even if I never said it, tell her." Burst into the courtyard like a force of nature. Behind her were royal guards, loyal soldiers who had fought through the chaos to protect their queen. She saw on the ground, saw the blood, and her 4 eyes went wide with horror. No, 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 no. She fell to her knees beside him, pulling him into her arms. Through the bond, he felt her love, her desperation, her refusal to let him go. "You cannot die," she said, her voice cracked with emotion she had hidden for decades. "I forbid it. Do you hear me? I forbid you to die." "You cannot command death," whispered. "I am the queen. I can command anything." Pressed the communication device into her hand. "He is the traitor. This is the proof." Looked at the device, then at who was being held by guards, his face twisted with hatred. For a moment her eyes burned with cold fire. She stood slowly, still holding his hand. "Counselor, you are guilty of treason against the Empire. You conspired with our enemies. You framed an innocent man. You led an attack on your own people. You have no right." "I have every right." She raised her hand and a blade of light formed in her palm. "The penalty for treason is death, immediate and without mercy." She moved faster than his fatting eyes could follow. One moment she was standing beside him. The next she was in front of. The blade fell and the traitor fell with it. Then she was back at side, shouting orders for doctors, for healers, for anything that could save him. The battle continued around them. Ships fell from the sky. Soldiers fought and died. They pressed their attack, but without information their coordination faltered. The defenses held, then pushed back. Saw none of it. His world had narrowed to space above him, to her voice telling him to hold on, to the warmth of her hand in his. "Stay with me," she begged. "Please stay with me." He wanted to. With everything he had, he wanted to. But the darkness was closing in, and he was so very tired. The last thing he felt before unconsciousness took him was her love, burning through the bond like a star. And then there was nothing at all. Opened his eyes to soft light and the smell of flowers he did not recognize. He was in a bed, surrounded by machines that hummed quietly, their displays showing symbols he still could not read. For a long moment he simply breathed, feeling the air fill his lungs, feeling his heart beat in his chest. He was alive. The door opened and entered. She looked different than he had ever seen her. Her formal robes were gone, replaced by simple clothing. Her hair, usually floating in perfect arrangement, hung loose around her shoulders. And her eyes, those 4 violet eyes that had once been so cold, were red from crying. "You are awake," she said. Her voice trembled. "How long?" 8 days. She crossed the room and sat on the edge of his bed, just like she had all those months ago when he had been poisoned. "The doctors were not sure you would survive. Human physiology is still a mystery to them. They did not know how to treat your wounds." Looked down at his chest. Bandages covered him from shoulder to stomach, white against his skin. "It hurts." "Good, that means you are healing." She took his hand and he felt her emotions through the bond. Relief, joy, love so strong it almost hurt. "I thought I lost you. When I saw you lying there, when I felt your life fading through our connection, I thought my heart would stop. I promised I would not abandon you. You almost died for me. That is not the same thing. Where I come from, it is exactly the same thing." She laughed, a broken sound that was half sob. "Humans are insane." "So I have been told." The days that followed were filled with recovery and revelation. Learned what had happened while he lay unconscious. The attack on the capital had failed. Without coordinating their movements, the swarm had fought without strategy, throwing themselves against defenses that held firm. The military, using the tactics had taught them, had turned the battle into a slaughter. The retreated, broken and bleeding, their first major defeat in living memory. The Empire celebrated, but the celebrations were mixed with mourning. Thousands had died in the attack. Buildings had been destroyed. Entire sections of the palace lay in ruins. The cost of victory was high. But victory it was. General came to visit in his recovery room. The old soldier looked tired, his silver skin dull with exhaustion, but there was something different in his eyes when he looked at, something that might have been respect. "You threw yourself in front of a blade for counselor," said. "You took a wound that should have killed you." "I did not have time to think about it." "That is the point. You did not think, you simply acted," sat down heavily. "I have led armies for 300 years. I have seen soldiers sacrifice themselves for duty, for honor, for fear of punishment, but I have never seen someone do it purely from instinct, from, what did you call it? Stubbornness. We prefer to call it love." Was silent for a moment. "To have forgotten how to love like that. We have bred it out of ourselves along with so many other things. We thought we were improving. We thought we were becoming perfect." He shook his head. "We were becoming less." "It is not too late to remember." "Perhaps not," stood and bowed, a gesture of respect that had never expected from him. "The Empire owes you a great debt, Park. I owe you a greater one. If you ever need anything, you have only to ask." When was strong enough to walk, took him to the great balcony that overlooked the capital city. The damage from the attack was still visible. Broken towers, streets, ships hovering overhead, still on alert for threats that might come. But the city was alive. People moved through the streets, lights glowed in windows. Children played in the parks that had survived. Life continued, stubborn and persistent, refusing to surrender to death. "The council has formally pardoned you," said. "All charges have been dropped. The evidence against was overwhelming. His allies have been arrested. His conspiracy is destroyed." "Good. There is more." She turned to face him, her 4 eyes soft in the evening light. "The council has given you a title. You are now the shield of the official protector of the throne. It comes with lands, wealth, authority." She paused. "And the eternal gratitude of an empire." Looked out at the city. Somewhere beyond those stars was Earth. His old home. His old life. His mother was there, probably worried sick about her son who had vanished without a trace. "I have arranged for a message to be sent," said, reading his thoughts through the bond. "Your people will know that you are alive, that you are safe, that you have found a place among the stars." She hesitated. "And if you wish to return, I will find a way. The soul binding would make it painful, but perhaps we could manage the distance. I will not keep you here against your will." Turned to look at her. This alien queen who had become so much more. This woman who had learned to love despite everything in her life telling her not to. "I do not want to go back," he said. "Listen to me." He took her hands in his. "When I went to sleep that night in Seoul, I was alone, not just physically. I was lonely in a way I did not even recognize anymore. I had accepted it as normal. I had stopped hopping for something more." He squeezed her hands. "Then I woke up here, with you. And yes, it was terrifying. Yes, I wanted to go home. But somewhere along the way that changed." "When?" "I do not know exactly. Maybe when you sat on my bed after the poison and told me about your mother. Maybe when I saw you fighting for your empire, carrying burdens no one should carry alone. Maybe when I realized that the universe in all its madness had given me exactly what I needed." He smiled. "Someone to love, someone who needed me, a purpose bigger than myself." His eyes were bright with tears. Through the bond, he felt her heart opening, all the walls she had built crumbling at last. "I love you," she said. The words came out like they had been locked away for a lifetime. "I love you, Park of Earth. I love you too, of the Empire." She kissed him then, there on the balcony with the stars as their witnesses. It was not the uncertain kiss of their first time. It was a promise, a declaration, a beginning. Weeks later they held a wedding ceremony, a real one by choice rather than cosmic accident. They followed traditions, with lights and songs and vows spoken before the council. Then they followed Korean traditions as best as could remember them. He wore white. She wore red. They bowed to each other and to the universe that had brought them together. The message reached Earth 3 months later. Humanity learned that they were not alone in the universe. that the stars were full of wonders and dangers they had never imagined, and that one of their own, a software engineer from Seoul, had become the consort of an alien queen and helped save an empire. The world changed that day. Old arguments seemed smaller. Old borders seemed less important. Humanity looked up at the night sky with new eyes, knowing that somewhere out there, one of them had proven what humans could be. On the night of their first anniversary and stood together on that same balcony. The city below was rebuilt now, stronger than before. The empire was at peace. They had not attacked in months, still licking their wounds from their defeat. "Are you happy?" asked. Looked at the stars. He thought about everything he had lost. His home, his old life, the world he had known. Then he thought about everything he had gained. Love, purpose, a place in the universe. "I am," he said. "I never expected this. I never asked for it, but I am happy." "Humans are strange," said. "You adapt, you survive, you find happiness in the most unexpected places." "That is what we do." He put his arm around her, feeling the cool smoothness of her skin, feeling her warmth through the bond. "We came from a death world. Everything in our history tried to destroy us, but we refused to give up. We refused to stop hopping. And somehow, despite everything, we kept finding things worth living for." "And what is worth living for now?" Smiled. "You, this, us." She leaned into him, her head resting against his shoulder. "Then let us live parked together, for as long as the stars shine." "For as long as the stars shine," he agreed. And together they watched the universe unfold before them, no longer alone, no longer afraid. Just two souls, bound by fate and choice, facing the future as one.